There's really not a lot of highlights on it. I really don't like it much at all, and I would certainly wouldn't drop any kind of real dough on this one. Their first great album, Charade You Are. Yeah, Adam Hart Mother. My name is Joe. These are just opinions. I am Joe Opinionated. Welcome again to the channel. We're ranking the studio albums from Pink Floyd. I've got 15 here. Pink Floyd really got going with their debut record in 1967. Nick Mason on drums, Roger Waters on bass, Syd Barrett on lead vocals and guitar, and Richard Wright on keys. Psychedelic pioneers. Syd Barrett, had a mental health crisis, possibly from LSD or possibly he went schizophrenic. His good friend David Gilmour came into the band. They were working together, and then finally they kind of left Syd at home. From there on out, from 1968 on out, it was the four of them till they started to break up around the album The Wall, and then the final cut, and then they really did break up, and then Pink Floyd went on without Roger Waters. Their last album was released in 2014. Pink Floyd, one of the greatest bands of all time. So let's rank the albums. Number 15 from 1969, Ummagumma. This is almost not really an album. There's one half that's a live side, and then there's the other half that's experiments from the guys in the group. I remember actually kind of liking this album when Napster came out and I first heard it, just because it was kooky and experimental, and I couldn't believe that Pink Floyd made this. There's really not a lot of highlights on it. I really don't like it much at all, and I would certainly wouldn't drop any kind of real dough on this one. Number 14, The Endless River, and that's their last one from 2014. This is basically just extra material from the Division Bell. Richard Wright had passed away back in 2008. Nick and Dave went into the studio and kind of put this all together. Dave Gilmour's wife wrote lyrics for one of the songs. It's a very beautiful album because it's these guys jamming out. I like Division Bell. It's cool. Doesn't really feel like a Pink Floyd album. Number 13 from 1983. I'm going with The Final Cut. This is Roger Waters' baby. Basically, he's got the band members all depressed and at home and fired, and they don't want anything to do with this now. Roger doesn't want anything to do with them. He kind of wanted to work. He was kind of the Paul McCartney of the group. This album is basically like Roger Waters issues with his history with his father and stuff. What The Endless River to Division Bell is, that's what this album is to The Wall for me, where it's just like, yeah, okay, cool. It sounds really good in parts. David Gilmour actually slays on the three parts he's in, but other than that, I never got the love of this album. And and that was the last one with I guess with the whole band. Basically, it's a Roger album. Number 12, soundtrack to a film, 1969's More. And there's a few soundtracks throughout. I'm pretty sure Adam Hart Mother and Obscured by Clouds are both soundtracks as well. And I mean, The Wall almost turned into a soundtrack. So there you go. Number 12 is More. And it does have some really cool guitar like songs and riffs on there from David Gilmour, especially the Now song, major highlight. There's also like filler tracks. There's also like soundtrack scores. And, it's almost like I call it their Yellow Submarine, where half of it's really good and the other half's okay. 11. Number 11, I'm going with their debut, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is Syd's album. Syd's a completely different thing. These guys started out as Syd's band, and then Syd was gone after this. He was the star, he was the energy, he was everything for the group while he was going. They were all riding Syd's coattails on this album because he was so magnetic. Some really cool pop tracks on it. Astronomy Domini, Interstellar Overdrive, Bike. I liked Bike because it was on that Best Greatest Hits from Pink Floyd, came out around 2000. Syd could definitely write a pop song, this sort of space rock psychedelic thing they had going on. Number 10 from Storm Thorgerson, his first Incredible cover. Is that the first Incredible one? For Adam Hart Mother with the cow on the front. Adam Hart Mother is number 10. I thought it was a soundtrack for some reason. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of soundtrack correlation. Adam Hart Mother, the song score. This is the album where Pink Floyd does a transition into, the Pink Floyd that is one of the greatest bands of all time. This is the transition album. They've almost got it, not quite. Almost so. I don't go back to it much. I do go back to a few songs, so they will show up on my top 25 Pink Floyd songs in the next episode. Yeah, Adam Hart Mother. Love the title track, Fat Old Son. Number 9 from 1968, A Saucerful of Secrets. I think this one's a bit better than Piper at the Gates. It's kind of like their two early albums are pretty good. Then they go on a rough patch for 3 albums. Then they get really good again. Them without Syd learning how to do it on their own. But this one's cool because you get a bit of Dave Gilmour on it too, as well as Syd. Well, Syd's only on the one song, but maybe one of the best songs. There's Jug Band Blues, Saucerful of Secrets, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, Let There Be More Light. I mean, all these songs rock. Number 8, I'm going with A Momentary Lapse of Reason from 1987. Roger sold the rights to Dave Gilmour and the guys, or sold the name. Dave Gilmour put together this album. This is more Dave Gilmour solo effort. The guys did come and tour the album. I don't know how much playing they really did on the album. It sounds more like Dave Gilmour's solo work. It suffers from being recorded in the 80s. Doesn't really sound as crisp and great as all of their other albums. That's the one downfall to this. I don't really like the studio recording. It just seems elite on every other album, but wasn't the greatest, probably because they're missing, I guess, the architect, Roger Waters, right? So the lyrics aren't there from Roger on this one, but some very amazing tracks, and still some of my favorites that will come up on the top 25 list. And Learning to Fly, Dogs of War, One Slip, On a Turning Away. I used to even like the New Machine things. I've always been here. Sorrow. Storm does an amazing cover as well. The Beds on the Beach, I forget how many hundreds of beds they put out on the beach there. Those Storm covers are incredible. And Storm was friends with Dave Gilmour, I think, growing up as well. I think they knew each other as kids. All right. So number 7, I'm going with the Division Bell, the following album, and really their last album from 1994. This is accompanied by the Pulse tour, or the tour for the Division Bell, which they later made the Pulse VHS CD combo. It had that Pulse, that light in the back of the CD pack. So this is when I got into Pink Floyd. I knew a bunch of people that went to the show in 94, Tristan from the Tristones especially. And then he became a massive Pink Floyd fan. He lived around the corner from me and kind of fell in love with the band around the same time. I love this album. I think it's a beautiful album. I think it's well recorded. You've got the three guys again. Richard Wright is, very important on a lot of my favorite songs on writing credits. David Gilmour is one of the coolest, best guitar players ever. And Nick Mason is such an underrated drummer. I love Nick Mason's drumming. David Gilmour's wife, I believe, writes most of the lyrics and does a great job. Really cuts deep with some of them. I love Keep Talking, High Hopes, Lost for Words. I love Coming Back to Life. It's such a great song. One of the ones I usually recommend if you're new to Pink Floyd. Coming Back to Life is a cool track. What Do You Want From Me? Take It Back. All right, number 6, another movie soundtrack, Obscured by Clouds from 1972. So this is the album between Meddle and Dark Side of the Moon. I didn't really know this album. My buddy Tristan from the Tristones showed it to me many years later. He kind of discovered it late as well, I believe. It kills. It was also in a movie, a short movie called Parasite and Cigarettes. It was animated short, nominated for an Academy Award. I'm a local guy. Anyways, I always give shout outs because I really like it. You can watch it on YouTube for free. Parasite and Cigarettes. The director told me about how they got rights to the song When You're In. I love the title track. Burning Bridges, What's the Deal? I think the recording is incredible. At this time, they had half the Dark Side of the Moon in the bag when this came out. Number 5 from 1979, which I believe makes it one of the greatest selling albums of the 70s, going with The Wall. I'm positive this is the first Pink Floyd album I was really into as a young kid when I was first learning how to play the guitar. I remember trying to learn Mother. My brother did have it in a stack of 42 CDs he got one day. And that was really like all those CDs are, core CDs in my music memory. The Wall was one of them. I remember really loving Mother. Obviously, another brick in the wall when I was a little kid. I remember learning Hey You and Comfortably Numb. I was probably around 11, 10 maybe. I loved the movie, Alan Parker's movie. I've gone like hot and cold with this album over the years. I kind of got a bit tired of it. I'm good on Comfortably Numb. I'm good on Another Brick in the Wall. I'm good on a couple ones that they play all the time. It's such a great concept album, piece of art. Never anything really hit this good for this type of concept album ever. You really hear all the members of the group in a different light in a sense, but there's a lot of the greatest performances as musicians on this album. Roger's writing on this album is incredible. Some incredible bass hooks. Another Brick in the Wall is arguably better than Another One Bites the Dust as far as a great bass hook around the same time. Hey You, Nobody's Home. I mean, I love all the in between tracks. Young Lust, One of My Turns, Nobody's Home, Hey You, Waiting for the Worms, The Trial, The Thin Ice, In the Flesh, Mother, Goodbye Blue Skies. Long album, certainly meant to be consumed whole. At number 4 from 1977, going with Animals. Pig Man, Big Man, charade you are, charade you are, charade you are. I never actually knew that that's what the hell he was saying until maybe 5 years ago. Charade you are, charade you are. This album loosely based on Animal Farm. Excellent cover again from Storm. There's a whole story behind the album cover on this one. Pigs flying away. This wasn't the first Pink Floyd album I got into. I'm pretty sure it was introduced to me by my buddy Tristan again. He was obsessed with it. I think he actually at one point his parents had to sit him down and say you're not allowed to buy any more copies of Animals. This is when he was probably in grade 9, maybe 8. This album essentially has 3 songs on it. Dogs, Pigs, and Sheep. It has 2 bookends, Pigs on the Wing, which is a nice little folk number. Dogs is the longest song on the album in 20 minutes ish. I think it's always been my least favorite of the 3 songs on the album. People look at me like I'm crazy. I like the other 2 songs more. I like Pigs and Sheep more than Dogs. That's just me. I guess you get more Pink Floyd with Dogs, and there are cool parts to it. I don't know what it is about that one though. I'm not crazy about the singing on that one on Dogs, so I think that's kind of the biggest problem I have with it. This is a very angry album. I just love how mean it comes off at the record industry, and this is when the band really started to get tore up too, when the infighting really got going. Apparently, I love it. Number 3, I'm going from 1971. Meddle, their first great album, prog rock, space rock, psychedelic rock. Echoes being one half of the album. My buddy Tristan's dad would play the echoes at Halloween, kind of spaced out middle part of the song. You'd wheel out the speakers close to the door and start pounding it. And to this day, I always have Halloween music blaring on speakers out my front door in homage to that memory, really, to that. Opens up with One of These Days. Such a cool song on Paul Still Live DVD. Incredible. A Pillow in the Winds. But then it gets into Fearless, which is one of their best songs. Saint Tropez. I love Saint Tropez. That's a cool little pop hook. Something that they haven't really put out a pop hook like that since Syd was in the band, putting out songs like Bike and Arnold Lane. Seamus, I love Seamus too, with the hound dog there. And then Echoes ends with Echoes funky as hell, long, incredible song. I can't wait for that live at Pompeii concert. It's coming to IMAX soon. How cool is that? That is such a cool live performance of the song Echoes. Roger Waters really stand out on this album with his playing. Billy Strings does a really cool cover of Fearless. I've been watching that on YouTube a fair bit. Number 2 comes from 1975, Wish You Were Here, dedicated to, it was an album about Syd, some other stuff too, the record industry and isolation and all that stuff. The cool story, I believe it was Shine On You Crazy Diamond. So the album opens with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, closes with Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Both are 10 minutes ish. Both parts. It's part 1 to 5 and 6 to 9. Just make it part 1 and part 2. When they were recording this album, Syd Barrett showed up in the studio. He had his eyes shaved and he is overweight and he was standing in a corner and they didn't recognize him. And then they asked who this guy was and then it broke him down. They couldn't believe they didn't even recognize him. They're performing a song about him. Anyway, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, maybe my favorite song of all time. Definitely in the conversation for my favorite song of all time. I love it. Love the lyrics so much, how emotional it is. I love the live performance, like the shortened version of it and Paul's, just every line so beautiful. I love to try and play it on the guitar. I honestly really do prefer the live performances of this one just because they're a bit shorter. Welcome to Machine is just a really left turn, gnarly, cool studio track. Richard Wright, and just so creative in the studio. Have a Cigar, great song, guest singer on that one. Is it Roy Harper? I'm almost positive. Yeah, Roy Harper was the vocals on that one. Wish You Were Here, the title track. Maybe you've heard it too much. That one's definitely played a lot. You can't deny that when you first heard that song, you weren't hooked or intrigued by the lyrics. Roger really firing on all cylinders, writing through, especially through the 70s. I don't think it's cliche. I don't think it's over the top. I don't think it's sappy. I think it's really tasty. And I love the guitars, of course, epic. But number one, of course, is one of the most epic albums, concept albums of all time, Dark Side of the Moon from 1973. One of the greatest covers of all time. First thing that comes to mind, actually, when I think of this album is pairing it up with Wizard of Oz with my old buddies. My buddy Ian was like a pro at it, really good. He could do it so when you play it the second time, it was still matched up. And I picture myself listening to it in my headphones, walking around the hallways at school. They performed the entire album at the end of Pulse on that DVD VHS. Breathe, On the Run, that sort of experimental song. Time, Great Gig in the Sky, Money, Us and Them. The backside's incredible. Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, Eclipse, some of the best lyrics ever. I mentioned it in 1970, talking about Plastic Ono Band and how I believe, God, the song God at the end is very similar to kind of how Dark Side of the Moon ends. Playing's phenomenal. The singing's incredible. The writing's incredible. Monumental. I think it's number one. I've got no problem saying the most, highly regarded Pink Floyd album is the best. I think it is. That was fun, wasn't it? Remember to like, comment, subscribe, check out the other Pink Floyd episodes on this channel, or just check out the channel. Let me know who or what I should deep dive next. Let me know how stupid I was for picking those albums in that order. Apologize. I'm a little low on facts and high on opinions. Respect to one of my favorite bands ever, Pink Floyd. We out.